Today's episode of the Influencer Empires podcast is brought to you by the Empire Program with White Label Suite, powering our influencers and building their empires. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. I am so pleased to be interviewing today's guest. We met at a conference 6 months ago. When I was sitting at the back of the room and she was standing up on stage, I said to myself, I will do whatever it takes to spend some quality time with this particular person. We were there for a marketing conference on AI, on the tech behind AI. And yet she stood up and completely blew away the audience with the human element of business today and how that influences AI and the importance of making that stance. She is a bona fide influencer with over 16,000 people that listen to her every single word on LinkedIn. She is a published author. She is Coach of the Year 2023. She has grown an incredible brand, helping people through business coaching, through executive leadership, and being shouted out on stages across the world as a true leader in that space. I am blessed. I am so fortunate to be standing here with the recently published best-selling author of Scary Good. It is none other than Angie Callen. Angie, thank you so much for jumping on with me.
Thank you, Walt. And now I know what people mean when they're like, wow, I loved your intro. I have somebody who can intro like me and I love it. And I actually think you're better at it because you got a radio voice. So thank you.
Well, this is years of practice, but I tell you what, that intro could have gone on and on and on. As I'm reading through your history, I cut that short. There's so many cool things that you've done. You started your career as an engineer, the technical, connective maths kind of focus, and you've morphed into a people person. How did all of this happen?
Well, those are actually reversed because I was always a people person who became an engineer and found out that people aren't engineers. And so, I kind of have branded myself as the former engineer who loves people, which is why I love solving human problems so much. And it was one of those things that I'm glad I did it. I went to engineering school because as a top performer as a kid, I did not have a career aspiration, which I remember feeling very self-conscious about. And so my dad, who was my high school math teacher for 3 years, said, Ange, you're good at math and science, go to engineering school. Okay, Dad. And then I was like, oh, I chose civil engineering because it's the discipline where you get to talk to people the most. No lie.
Wow. Okay.
That's why there's the word former in front of engineer now.
Right. Okay. How long did it last? How long were you trapped in that calculated world?
Yeah. And that's a really good way to put it. I knew when I was a junior in college, I didn't want to be trapped in the calculated world. However, when you're a junior at an engineering college and you're funding your own education, you don't change your major. And so 7 years.
There's a t-shirt.
Yeah, there's a t-shirt. 7 years. And then I chose the Great Recession as the pivotal moment to jump off a precipice with no parachute and change my career.
That sounds like a really smart and intelligent thing to do.
And very pre-planned.
So obviously it worked out. Like the change, was there a day, was there a moment that you went, yeah, I'm not like, can you remember where you were? I know you're into your mountaining and you're adventuring and you're an outdoor sports person. You've talked about jumping off a cliff, the precipice. Was there an actual moment that the switch flicked for you and you went, yeah, I'm done?
Which ironically, I will never jump off a cliff. That is not one of the mountain adventures I aspire to do, but it was in seeking mountain adventure that I found the moment and the wake up call. And this is all stuff that, by the way, I talk about in Scary Good, Discovering Life Beyond the Sunday Scaries, is how I arrived to somewhere beyond them. Because the one of the several reasons I'm glad I remained an engineer is it's what got me to move from the East Coast of the US to Colorado. So I used to live in Boston in the concrete jungle and was working on sites to like redevelop crappy soils. And then I moved to Colorado and got to transfer through the company I was working to a small resort town, which was the goal. I wanted access to primarily skiing at that point in time. Now I've realized you come to Colorado for the winters and stay for the summers, and you have a whole lot of gear in your basement to prove it. But I was sitting in a cubicle, and I'm talking like straight out Office Space cubicle one day, and I'm looking outside at this brightest blue sapphire sky I've ever seen. And I am drafting CAD markups, computer-aided drafting, red line markups that someone else gave me. I'm not even able to do my own work anymore because the recession tanked the industry so bad. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Also, I was designing parking lot on National Forest land so that one of the ski resorts could have more parking. And I'm just sitting there going, this is not what I kind of signed up to do. And so there's a very brief window of time when I had actually met my now husband, who lived in the next mountain town over, and I'm like, doing it. And so I guess you could call him the one who made the push, but I was already standing there looking over, and it was time.
Doing the parking lot on top of a national forest is an amazing segue, if I think about it, to what you're doing now in terms of humans in AI. So I'm going to come back to that because I really want to dive into it. But one of the things that fascinates me is your getting away from the Sunday Scaries, which is what is literally on the front of your book, Scary Good. And you talk in your podcast itself. It's no more Mondays. So tell me about the Sunday Scaries and the No More Mondays, and what's your feeling there? What are you looking to achieve, and how are you helping people through the coaching side explore that?
When I made the move from Boston to Colorado, I was in my late 20s, and I specifically remember people, primarily my ski friends, would be like, "Oh, what are you doing? You're living my life. You're doing the thing I've always dreamt of doing." And I specifically remember thinking, this was way before the coach, or maybe this was one of the coach seeds, who knows? I remember thinking, I'm nobody special. You could do this too. And what I realized in that moment is we choose mediocrity over a life by design all the time, especially here in the United States. Golden handcuffs, climbing the ladder, and kind of living by someone else's expectations or rules or belief systems without ever actually looking and seeing whether or not they serve us, and that they're the ones that we choose and want to operate upon. And because of that, we end up staying small and staying mediocre instead of trying things or saying, I might fail, but at least I'll learn, and experimenting to figure out what we want out of life versus just following the expectations or the kind of old school methodology of doing things, which a lot of people still do, even though that's breaking down. And so there was just a lot of moments throughout my changes that both challenged me, but helped me increase my level of self-awareness. Sometimes I'd rather not know, but I'm a more complete human in doing so. And it is in all of that experience and journey that helped me feel like I now know what I want to do, how I want to impact people, and I want to help other people explore that and lean into that. Because at least in America, the average worker experiences the Sunday Scaries 36 weeks of the year. Okay, quick math from your former engineer who loves people friend. There are only 52. And once you remove the Monday holidays from there, you're basically looking at having the Sunday Scaries 100% of the time, which basically means we are allowing Monday to ruin our Sundays. We are allowing the work week to take time out of our weekends when we're supposed to be doing the things that fuel us. And instead, we're channeling that towards anxiety over the work week. And all of that doesn't just mean you hate your job. It probably means your life and lifestyle are completely misaligned to the values that you haven't done the work to explore. And so a lot of that sounds kind of like woo-woo coachy, especially coming from a former engineer who loves people, but there is a really practical foundation you can build if you allow yourself to lean in and do a little self-discovery and make some decisions and take some agency that you have more of than you think you do.
Tell me about that. You can see the sign behind me. You have magic in you.
Yes.
This was a gift from my business partner. That's my philosophy, that every one of us has everything that we ever need right inside us, and that's what makes us special. But tell me about that from your side of things, Angie. Like what you said is that they have more than they could imagine. Like, tell me, what are you thinking there? Like, how is this coming to light?
I think your sign says it, which, by the way, I did not know you have. And when you came on, I was like, ooh, so much fun, because it really is true. You have everything inside of you that you need to go be the purposeful, impactful human that you're meant to do. I truly believe all of us have a purpose to fill in this world, and only a fraction of us will ever even know that, let alone go through the journey to discover it, let alone discover it, right? There's some just sieving all the way down to being a very small population of kind of enlightened humans who knows that we have magic in us and that we do have the magic in us. And I think a lot of it comes down to what happens to us through adulthood conditions us to believe we don't have the magic. And if you can go back to your 9-year-old self, which, by the way, is when a young female's self-confidence peaks, and you can tap into the magic that that girl believed she had, or that little boy believed he had, it doesn't mean that you need to go be the thing that little kid thought they wanted to be when they grew up. But if you can go back to that point in time or into that mentality of like childlike confidence and childlike hope and belief that you do have a purpose and you lean into exploring it, you are going to open up an entire world of satisfaction that you never would have found otherwise. And I don't know about you, that to me means living with no regrets.
Interesting. In a world where every single news story that we ever read, despite what's happening at the time of this recording, is about technology and AI and about cutbacks and job losses and all that kind of stuff. Angie, you're the voice of the people in amongst that storm. This concept of leaning into what lights you up, genuinely loving what you do and who you are. For a lot of people, they'll be listening to this and they'll be saying, yeah, but Angie, you don't understand. I've got bills to pay. I've got a life to live. I've got commitments. I've got family. Like, I can't just throw all that away and go and climb mountains for the sake of the exercise. Angie, you don't understand. I'm trapped. How do you help that person when you're working through that with them?
So one thing I want to do is validate the fact that most of us aren't going to eat by making money on the things we're passionate about. There is such things as starving artists, because most people's passions are hobbies that can't make money unless you're an outlier who's one of the top 10%. But I do believe that you can find something you're passionate about if it is an outlet for your purpose and your gifts. And there's a big distinction between using your passion to make money and being passionate about the way you make money.
Interesting.
So I think that's the first thing that you have to kind of lay the foundation and set clear expectations on, because the other thing is, as individuals, we are never going to be 100% fulfilled by our vocation. We're way too diverse and have too many interests and too many outlets for those things in order to have the expectation that that's going to be all of our fulfillment. And as soon as you kind of start separating that out, you reduce the pressure that a lot of times I think we put on our career to be the be all end all of our value and worth in the world. So that's one thing, is you've got to put a lens on this that leads to a realistic expectation. And the second thing I will say is that you may not be as trapped as you think you are. And what I mean by that is we are really good at, humans in our little Neanderthal brain, wanting to run back to the cave anytime we think anything even close to a saber-toothed tiger is around the corner. However, don't know about you, we ain't got those in Glenwood Springs, Colorado anymore. However, I'm pretty sure they dug one up recently. Anyway, the point being, we are very good at catastrophizing things.
Right.
And in that, we automatically jump to the worst case scenario as the conclusion or only possible or even likeliest outcome in any, even the smallest tiny change. If you can take a step back and you actually reverse engineer the likelihood of the worst case scenario playing out, you will find it is the least likeliest option, if even almost zero. And so now the return on investment of time is more likely to get you at least a learning experience and knowledge than it is, living in a bus for 4 years and bankruptcy. Read the book, you'll find out, right? But the thing is, it's all survivable. It's all survivable if you look at the reality of the situation versus jumping to conclusions. And so if you feel stuck, I encourage you to walk through the steps of saying, okay, what are the possible outcomes here and how likely are they really to come to pass? And once you see where those fall, then you can make an informed decision on where to take a calculated risk. Not if to take a calculated risk, but where.
That's cool. That's a very good distinction. And we're not talking about listening to this podcast, and if you're on the drive to work or you're on the treadmill or wherever it is that you're listening to this or watching this, we're not talking about rocking into your job this morning and giving notice and walking out and then going, oh my God, Walt and Angie told me to do it. No. We're talking about finding joy in what you're doing. Is there a framework that you design with people, Angie, to help them through that?
There is. It's less systematic than you may think as an engineer, because I actually tend to operate on a lot more like intuition and systems thinking, and then figuring out kind of what an individual needs to walk through things. But for the sake of all of you out there, I can give you some pointers to build your own framework. Because one of the most powerful and may seem cliche things that you can do that most people don't is know your core values. There happens to maybe be a little exercise for you on angiecallen.com where
I
you
was
can
going to
walk
say, let's
through
steer
it,
them. Like, guys, there's
which
some
was not a
amazing
shameless plug
resources
I
here.
intended to make, but it's
I
there
will make that shameless plug. Go to
Thank you.
angiecallen.com. Angie's the best at this. That's why she's won the awards for this. Don't get your information from a 30-minute podcast. Go and invest yourself, and that's all resources that you can get on angiecallen.com. But yeah, so you're helping people like understand those values, Angie, and that's the starting point.
I think the big thing is I'm a big fan of design over default. Default is the mediocrity we talked about earlier. Design is intentional choice, taking agency and exercising the control that we have, making those small movements. However, you can't pull out of your driveway and turn the correct direction if you don't have a general wayfinding point. And that's what values can help you do, is create a foundation for decision making and also a framework for what's aligned and what's misaligned so that you can then start pinpointing what to change. Because you do not have to be Angie, who leaves her secure, high-paying engineering job in the middle of the Great Recession to go run a single artist gallery in downtown Aspen to do this. Yeah. In fact, that's why I wrote the book, is so that you don't have to do that and go that extreme. But there are small steps that you can take. The important thing is to take them and not do nothing.
I love it. And doing it intentionally. I had a clip on my YouTube that was 30 seconds long where I was talking on a podcast. I literally said, I just would like the world to wake up and realize that it's a choice. That's kind of where we're thinking as well. Angie, let's move a little bit in terms of the reason you and I got to know each other. I'm attending the AI Marketing World. Absolutely amazing. You come on stage in amongst a suite of presenters that are talking about the latest and the greatest and the most incredible AI push button this and, content generation that. And you stood up and literally said, scary good. This is so good. It can't be AI. This is human. Actually, the people make art, especially, better than AI ever could. But your message was about the importance of us, the people in this AI developing space. This is something that's been an echo cry of yours for a while. Again, how did this realization that you are the voice of the humans in the AI world come to be?
I think it's one of those things where I did it and then realized it. Because I got to tell you all, the first 2 sessions I sat in on that conference, I went, am I allowed to swear on this show? Shit. It was like build your AI video clone. And then it was go AI arbitrage a business you don't know anything about. And you can start making money tomorrow from a guy that was so fast talking. There was no possible way you could ever understand anything he said inside of 37 minutes, right? That's what the first.
By the way, we did not speed up that clip. That was Angie pure unfiltered right there.
And I literally, I think I was texting my husband, like, I am effed, because I am the 3rd day keynote opening the day with essentially how to be a human, how to put people first in a machine-driven world. And I got to tell you what, one of the most amazing things was how much that was needed in that room. 100%. And I think that goes back to how I have now realized how important it is to have a human voice. And I think, practically speaking, I think this is one of the reasons the engineer became a coach, right? It gives me credibility to step into a room of techie, nerdy AI people and get them to listen to somebody who's talking about the fact that we can't lose our humanity, because your sign says it all. We have the magic in us. AI is not magic. AI is math. And that is a former engineer telling you that fact. There is no creative intelligence inside of generative AI. It can only operate on what it knows, and it can only know what has already happened. It cannot build and create the future. It can enhance us. It can enhance, and it can bring out and connect things that we would not have seen beforehand, because it's what it does. It parses data, but we get to bring the magic to that. And so the whole message that I had there was the fact that humans still matter, which ironically was a term I started talking about before AI came out. And I started talking about that, not to go political, but when the dumpster fire of social, political, geopolitical madness started, it really felt like we were starting to lose human connection and the fact that and empathy, right? So I started talking about the fact that humans still matter and we need to still matter to each other. And it's just so interesting that evolved into this, dual meaning of humans still matter in the age of AI, but there's also a third layer there that I've realized, in that humans still matter and that you still matter. And that's where individually we owe it to ourselves to do that work, discover life beyond the Sunday Scaries, and be the AI enabled or tech enabled human on purpose. But you've got to know that purpose and do that work, because that's how you are going to make sure that humans still matter, is by using the magic in you And it becomes a really interesting kind of ecosystem. And so it was one of those things, Walt, that I just went and did. And then I realized, oh, I guess that's the thing I'm supposed to do.
Interesting. There's a lot of people right now around the world, Angie, that are scared. You know, they're scared that they've been in this role for so long, and AI is just coming in and wiping them out. And what your message is saying is, hang on, there's brilliance that you can add on top. And if we see that AI as a multiplier of you, then you can not only survive this, but you can thrive. You can actually, you know, when we talk about let's do math, let's multiply, we get an exponential growth curve going on by being human and adding that into the mix of AI and what's going on. When it comes to the people that you work with, so obviously you're coaching at a high level, you're working with people who are leaders in the field. When it comes to people in those spaces, what are they feeling about AI, and how are you helping them to kind of realize this connection between their own magic and the AI magic that's all algorithms?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'll start there with is the challenge. And that is that we're kind of in the AI gold rush, which basically means, holy cow, I'm going to go dig in every single cliff and try to find the biggest nugget I possibly can in every single possible territory, on the planet. And it's a little bit of an over-indexing, right? We've seen companies roll it out too quickly and then have to roll it back because it's causing problems. And so where I start and what I encourage the human to think about is where they intentionally, ethically, and sustainably want to bring it into their environment, both individually and a team level, and maybe even at a business level if I'm working with a C-suite, right? Because AI is only as good as the humans driving it. And so if the humans don't know how to drive it, it's not going to provide the maximum value and likely create issues. And if you broad scope roll it out without guardrails, then you're going to have inconsistent use. You're just going to create issues. So I think there's a level of intentionality that needs to come in front of how do we want the humans and AI to come to the table together? Because that's one of the things I talked about at AI Marketing World. This isn't about machines instead of man, or even man instead of machines. We are now permanently in a world where it's man and machine, and we have to both sit at the table together, but remember that we get to drive. And that's where I think that as an executive or a leader, as a team, you really have to think about, how do we intentionally want to bring us into the environment? What do we want it to do? What do we want it to not do? Where can it enhance our magic? And where do we want to make sure it doesn't detract from it?
Interesting. I think the established workforce that obviously we're talking about here, where they've been in this role for 15 years, they have a team of people that are doing X, and this insertion of AI is disrupting everybody's boardrooms and everybody's thought patterns, and the indexing the fear and all that kind of stuff that we just mentioned. But there's a generation of people coming through, Angie, where this is native, where this is, I use AI in every single element of my life, and hey, let me at the workforce. If you knowing your message with the Sunday Scaries and the human side of development and joy, what would your message be to a group of college grads right now who are just about to go out into the world with all of this technology that they've kind of grown up with and take part in this larger universe? How would you educate them or influence them, I guess, in terms of what happens next with the power that they have and the human side of that as well?
Yeah, my short answer to that is build your human skills. Because we've heard of soft skills. We've heard over the years in the career space, we hear about hard skills and soft skills, which was the worst branding anybody in the professional world could have ever applied to skill set, because it makes it seem as if verbal and written communications are lesser than coding skills. And now we know they are not.
Truth.
And absolutely. So, yeah, I think no matter where you sit in the professional landscape, human skills are really, really important. And if you are mid-career or later, you need to leverage them, because they are going to be stronger than your AI and your technology skill set when compared to someone who was born with it in their hand. Important to know. I mean, I've had coders who are 50 years old who will tell me I'm never going to be as fast as a 25-year-old, right? We analog kids have the benefit of hindsight, but the challenge of hindsight.
Right.
And but I also appreciate that, because I think it gives us a really interesting perspective on the importance of real human connection and human skills that younger generations are never going to have the direct understanding of. However, needing to remember that we're AI enabled humans on purpose. We're not entirely in AI. We're not entirely just AI enabled. There's still a human factor there. And so if your kid coming on the scenes, the best thing you can do is be an AI enabled human on purpose, and to lean into your human skills and know who you are at your core and use AI to enable you, and not just be AI, because on your resume, that's only going to take you so far.
And I think you'd be battling against the majority. I think so. The development of your human skills and leaning into the message that you said before, it's like, you've got something that no mathematical system could ever replicate. You have feelings, you have empathy, you have intuition, you have all kinds of incredible things that make you uniquely who you are. Coming into that world as the college grad, armed with all of this tech and skill. And the message here is to say, also become you, also understand who you are, like really find that inner core of what you stand for, who you represent, who you want to be, and take that forward into the marketplace and be that amplifier.
Yeah.
It's a nice message to have. So Angie, where do you see this boom bust interesting cycle going? Where is the heading that we can all align with, in your opinion?
Yeah. Okay. Well, at the expense of just throwing projections out there in a recorded space, I think we are somewhere in the
timestamp this for later. We're going to come back.
Yeah, we're going to come back and have me on in 18 to 24 months and see if I was right, because that's how long I think it's going to take for like the dust to settle on the AI gold rush, and for let's say larger companies, businesses, not at an individual level, but more from that larger scale level, on how corporate America and businesses are going to incorporate it and how they're not, right? We're going to suss out where it should live in our organization and what kind of coworker it is, versus just saying, hey, look, we got access to a whole new talent pool. And I think it's just going to take that long. And once we do, we will then be able to see where, for instance, jobs are being displaced. Because right now there's the fear of replacement. And guess what? My response to that is, if you are within 5 years of retirement, cool, stick your head in the sand, pretend like it doesn't exist. If you are less than that, you cannot act like AI does not exist, because then you will be replaced. However, as long as you keep up your skills, both human and technologically speaking, you will be able to adapt to a displacement and make a shift to where AI pushes jobs versus where it potentially is taking away. And that's where I think we're going to start getting stronger ideas and more specific ideas of what that, apples to orange transition looks like over the next 18 months to 2 years. Do I think it's going to be settled by then? No, but I think this gold rush, what's that movie, Far and Away? Everybody's running to stick their little, their little wood in the corner of the plot, right? Yeah. This is we're all Tom Cruise out there waving our little flag for Nicole Kidman, right? Like that, I think, is going to settle in the next 24 months, and we'll have a better picture of what exactly we should be doing skill building wise to make sure we stay relevant and can progress.
Nice. And I think that's never been any different. It's always been about upskilling in terms of where we're at. So Angie, what about yourself personally? Like I recognize you as an influencer, and that's sometimes a surprise, right? Especially for the influencer.
I'm like, thanks.
Wow, how cool is that? You have created a following. You've created a voice that people resonate with and say, tell me more about that, Angie. Like, as we said before, guys, follow along with angiecallen.com. Make sure that you're getting all the details and information there. Angie, how has this position of influence affected you personally and your brand, and how did it change your life?
I think the first thing is, I don't know that I ever set out to be an influencer, but I think many of us are that's the case. And a lot of the reason I did was because I don't know how to be anything else other than me. I don't know how to talk or put out content that's anything other than me. And that might sound ridiculous, but it's not in that I'm just authentically myself, take it or leave it. That isn't it. I just don't know how to do anything else. And so in putting that out there, I realized I was kind of onto something. And it was in becoming, let's call it the influencer. That feels like a word I'm not necessarily worthy of, but it was in putting that voice out there and seeing how it resonated that gave me the clarity to write my book for instance. And that is something I've been theoretically writing for 4 or 5 years. And all of a sudden, there were elements of the influencer piece and things that I had started putting out there through that thought leadership that gave me the aha moment to figure out the cover to put on it, for instance. And so it's really, I think it's changed my life because it's helped change others. And I hope that doesn't sound like cliche or forced, but it really is true, because I think that all of us do have that calling and that purpose. And that if that purpose or calling impacts one person, that's a life well lived. And for me, the fact that people have said, like, you've changed my life, or, oh my gosh, I can resonate with what you wrote, or in coaching them, they felt hope. Those are all things that for me have given me meaning as a human. Practically speaking, I also bought us a house. And so there's like a real world application of what happens when you do go out into the world with this mind to serve, what kind of comes back to you in various forms, whether it's in like personal fulfillment or realizing a life milestone or something in between.
And I think like the actual resolution there of your message is so consistent, be a human, be authentic, sure, work your butt off, because I see the amount of content that you're putting out there and I see the amount of work that you're doing, and good things happen. But that doesn't just happen by accident. That's by design. And that's exactly, what you were talking about before. Yeah. Super cool.
And design doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's easy. Of course not.
Cool. Goodness. I mean, it's easy it's easy to put your feet up and have a day off sometimes as an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's not, but design means doing it on purpose. And you're right, because if you're on purpose, you direct, but if you're by accident, then you take what you're given, and that doesn't have a lot of hope connected.
You're a tumbleweed.
Right. I like what Jim Rohn said. He was like, if you depend on somebody else to set your direction, guess what? What if you turn up where they don't want you to be, or you don't want them to be, or whatever? So you don't have that control. Exactly. Angie, what's next for you? I actually, before I get into there, I just want to tell you something. You made a comment there that I thought was really interesting, where you said, I'm not sure I'm worthy of that title. And I would give that back to you by saying, damn, you absolutely are. Take that proudly, and that impact that you've had on so many thousands of people already, and you're only just getting started, puts you firmly in the deserving seat of that acclaim. I'd love to know where you're going. Well, like, obviously the book's just come out, so guys, go and buy the book, support Angie, get some sales in Amazon, and leave her a beautiful review about all of the impact that it makes for you. But what's next for you? How do you see your journey progressing from here?
Thank you for reminding me that I have the magic in me, first of all. And second of all, I feel like I am moving into a new chapter of doing really like almost philosophical work that's representative of what I stand for versus, just saying I'm going to coach people. Right. This is like really next level for me. And, writing a book that's part memoir, part guide is a journey in and of itself that helps you realize, like, my own book coached me in some ways to help me kind of realize what I really need and should be doing. So that looks like things, teaser, Scary Good Retreats.
Nice.
That looks like, I mean, why wouldn't I bring together the personal world and the outdoor adventure that I talk so much about and use as a metaphor for life, right? That looks like, really putting things out there that help us remain purposeful and human while still adopting and leveraging technology, right? So essentially, how do we remain AI-enabled humans on purpose in this very quickly changing landscape, stay relevant, and just kind of trying to keep my finger on the pulse of all of that in order to figure out how to meet people, where they're at, and guide them into greater levels of awareness about their own individual humanity. Because I think that's going to be even more important, to be really connected with ourselves in this disconnected technological world. And so that's a really like big, ambiguous, rambly answer to say, I don't know. And that's okay.
I don't know. And that's okay. And I feel like I'm on the right path, and I'll stay on it until I feel like I'm not. That seems like a pretty good thing to me. I would say, if you're listening to this, you're somebody who is looking to move forward. You're an entrepreneur, or you're a go-getter, you're a dream chaser, you're a difference maker. And if you fit into any of those categories, and even if you don't, and you want to stay up to date with where your human side and your purpose and joy and direction of life aligns with your career, then there's nobody on the planet to follow better than Angie Callen. So again, Angie, I just want to say, to the amazing world that finally got us in a room together after so many meetings missed and agendas that didn't line up, I want to say thank you. Thank you. I think the opportunity to spend some quiet time with you is amazing. And from all of the people who are listening, I'm saying thank you to you for them. And I think, guys, if you can take anything from this, it is that you do genuinely have something special, and your life by design is only just getting started. It's only literally just getting started, and where you're going from here is important. Angie, I can't wait. I haven't read the book. I have to admit, I haven't read the book, but I'm going to, because it sounds amazing to kind of centralize that theme of my life. And I just can't wait to give you the feedback on that and hang out a little bit more and hear what's going on with you.
Anytime. I appreciate it. Walt, thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, guys. This is Angie Callen. She is a leader. She is an influencer, and deservedly so. She talks about your purpose, your journey, your mission in a technological world. Her book, Scary Good, is out right now on Amazon. You can get it right at angiecallen.com and follow along with Angie, as so many other thousands of people do, because I tell you what, you're in good hands. Angie, thank you again. You're amazing. Can't wait to see you soon.